Let's get started with last night's recaps in the NBA. And wouldn't you know, this series is upside down. The Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets, no team can win their games at home. We've seen that come to fruition thus far. As Denver, down 0-2, is right back in the series with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They win again last night in Minnesota, 115-107. And yes, the series is now tied at 2. Minnesota favored in the game. The dog wins outright. That's just the way that this has been going. Jokic had 35 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Aaron Gordon, also a huge game, 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists as well. Jamal Murray did hit a wild half-court shot to end the first half. We're all tied up at 2. And now the series is going back to the Mile High City in Denver. And Mike Malone, the head coach of the Nuggets, says this one was all about the extra performance they got from Aaron Gordon and how well he took them down the stretch.
That was a key stretch, 8-0 run. You know, we were playing a great first half, and then they started getting some momentum. The game got really ratty there. And, for us to take that 8-0 run, to build it to, I think, 15 at the break was really impactful. And obviously they try to throw a deep outlet. It goes right to Jamal. And, Jamal winds up draining an incredible shot. And you need plays like that sometimes. And obviously in that third quarter, we didn't defend. That was by far our worst defensive quarter. But I thought we had a lot of guys step up tonight. I thought our bench was amazing. I really thought Reggie, Justin Holiday, Christian Brown were incredible, 27 points. Reggie took a charge, made a 3. Justin made 3 threes, and Christian obviously closed the game with his defense, his shot making, and stepped up and made all of his free throws. Nikola does what he does. Jamal does what he does. But I thought Aaron Gordon was, the WeldWorks Juicy Bits MVP of the game. He was incredible.
MVP of the game, says Coach Malone for Gordon. We'll see what happens in Game 5. Meanwhile, we've got a series now between the Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. And you talk about a comeback. Boy, Indiana looked fantastic in last night's game. 121-89. This is the Pacers team that we saw during the regular season. They came out hot when the game started. First quarter, bench scores 17 points. Pacers end the first quarter with a 20-point lead, 34-14. This game was kind of over at the half, 61-49. Tyrese Halliburton, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. TJ McConnell chips in 15 and 10 assists in this game as well. And it was all giving credit to the performance of McConnell for Indiana Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton, who needed him to come through.
Yeah, it just feels good to get a win. But we got to understand at the end of the day, all we did was do our job and win, 2 games at home. So we understand the magnitude of Game 5, and we'll be prepared for that. I think we all just communicated, just not being so amped that, the score was what it was, you know what I mean? I think just understand that this is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you win or lose by, it's a win or a loss. That's all that really matters. So at the end of the day, all we did was, win a game and handle our business at home, truthfully. And now going back to the Garden where, we lost 2, felt like we should have got a win there. So we got to be prepared to go for 48 minutes when we get there. Yeah, just his energy. I mean, when he checks in, there's not many people in the NBA better at doing what he does, and that's bringing energy, off the bench. And so when he checks in, it allows me to play off the ball a little bit more. And at times, he might look at me like, oh, you got it. But I want him to run so I can kick it ahead so he can get downhill. But, yeah, his energy is just contagious, and everybody kind of flows off of that.
One of the bigger games at Madison Square Garden in the NBA playoffs in a long time coming up this week. Meanwhile, will LeBron James reunite with his son on the professional basketball court? It appears there's a chance of that happening next season, as LeBron James' son, Bronny James, has been medically cleared to play in the National Basketball Association. There are multiple reports that say this morning that this is where James is headed. He's headed to the NBA. Didn't have a great season at USC, but naturally had some medical issues that sort of stymied that. He's heading to the National Basketball Association draft, where he will be taken, and what LeBron James decides to do is the big story coming up this summer. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Hawks went into the lottery over the weekend thinking, yeah, we'll probably get the 10th pick, 11th pick, somewhere along those lines. How about the number 1 overall pick? They almost made the playoffs, 36-46 on the season. 10th place in the East, I guess that does count as playoffs these days. Regardless, they get the number 1 overall pick. Washington gets 2. Houston gets 3. Detroit had a great chance to get the number 1 overall pick. They ended up 5. Again, bad luck for them. We'll talk about that later in the show. We have Nike announcing that A'ja Wilson is getting her own signature shoe. It's called the A1. Nike has named Wilson to the brand's roster of signature athletes, a group featuring Serena Williams, Megan Rapinoe, Naomi Osaka, and Sabrina Ionescu. Congrats to her. Also, Great Osabor, the top available player in the transfer portal, has officially committed to Washington. He'll be the highest paid known player in college basketball. $2 million of NIL deals it does pay to play in college, that's for sure. Paul Skenes made his major league debut on Saturday. He did not disappoint. He hit 100 miles an hour 17 times on Saturday against the Cubs. He also struck out 7. Unfortunately, the bullpen let him down. 84 pitches to get 12 outs. It was a very exciting debut for this pitcher. Needless to say, he's got a bright future without a doubt. Shohei Ohtani was not in the lineup on Sunday for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had some back tightness after Saturday's 5-0 win in a very exciting series this weekend in San Diego. He does expect Ohtani to return on Monday. The Twins beat the Blue Jays 5-1 yesterday. They took 2 out of 3 this weekend. The Minnesota Twins are the hottest they have been since 2018. They've won 17 of their past 20 games. And also, in case you missed it over the weekend, last night, Brandon Nimmo with a walk-off home run for the New York Mets against the Atlanta Braves. He missed the game, or was thought to miss the game, with an issue with an oblique, but ended up playing in the game and hitting a walk-off home run. That's how you do it for Brandon Nimmo. In the National Hockey League, the Florida Panthers are one step closer to moving on. They go to Boston. They were down 2-0. They came back and won 3-2 in this game. The Cats 1 game away from the next round. Meanwhile, the Vancouver Canucks defeated the Edmonton Oilers. Final score 4-3, went over the total, a very high total, 6.5, keeps going over. This went to 7. In case you missed the announcement early from the NFL this morning, the Kansas City Chiefs will play the Baltimore Ravens in Game 1 of the upcoming NFL season in September. It will be on Thursday Night Football. And meanwhile, at the Wells Fargo Championship, which essentially is the preview for the PGA Championship coming up this week, Rory McIlroy wins another title. Match play situation with Xander in the final round at Quail Hollow in Charlotte, North Carolina. He now heads into next week's PGA Championship, the closest thing to a co-favorite that he has had this season with Scottie Scheffler. Who will win the PGA Championship? Will it be Rory? Will it be Scottie Scheffler? We'll have a preview with Brady Cannon coming up a little bit later in the week. All right, coming up next here on the show, Matt Latovsky is going to join us courtesy of Sporting News. We go over everything happening in Major League Baseball. Is Shota Imanaga the Cy Young Award winner and the Rookie of the Year in the National League? It could potentially be that right now. He's been the best pitcher, and he's a rookie pitcher as well. We'll also talk to Matt about Paul Skenes' debut. Then stay tuned because we've got Mike Mazzio coming up a little bit later as we'll discuss everything happening in the business of sports wagering.